Bob?
Obviously, in Scripture, God is viewed as a paternal God, and I'm sure one of the most controversial things was how God the Father was represented in the book.
Really? How was that?
Can you elaborate on a little bit on that? I'm sure that Paul's thinking, coming from a missionary background, had a lot to do with that. But I thought that was a very interesting, neat concept.
Yeah, so how does God show up as a woman?
He wrote the book. He could do whatever he wanted.
Everybody got that a little.
Yeah, I'm just not sure how deep to go here. Written for his children, remember. Paul, if you don't know some of Paul's story, part of his coming to his shack 14 years ago was as an associate pastor of one of the largest churches in the Pacific Northwest. It's revealed that he's been having a 3-month affair with his wife's best friend. Now, Paul tells the story. I'm not telling off on anything Paul doesn't tell if he were here. In the rage of that, he owns it with the congregation. He owns his failure. He submits to the discipline process that they want to invoke there. He's just said, yeah, I really need to get whole. And a lot of that come from the molestation in Paul's life starts at the age of 3 by this tribe his parents are part of, and they don't have any clue what's going on with him. So
wow.
The sexual brokenness in his life has gone on the whole of his life till 14 years ago. But after 3 weeks of being in the church, there's been a lot of people that are now embarrassed to have a former staff member who had an affair in the congregation. So the pastor finally says to him, you can't stay here. You're too embarrassing to us. Would you please leave? And so his wife and him were asked to leave the fellowship that they were willing to stay in and own his sin publicly and be healed in. And Paul will tell you this story. He's home that next week, and who comes driving in his driveway is a slightly overweight black woman who was the worship leader at the church he was just asked to leave. And she comes over to him and says, I think they're making a huge mistake with you. I think we need to love you and be in your life. And she said, I don't care what the rest of them do. I'm committed to you and Kim, and I'm going to be your friends through this. So Paul says the first person in whom I saw the love of God in the darkness of my shack was this woman. God made himself known to him through this woman. Why it's in the book is not to say God's a woman. The point of Scripture, the book actually says, the point of Scripture is God has no gender. God doesn't have male parts. God chooses to be identified as Father because that analogy means something in our culture. And I fully embrace God as Father. All of us do on this project. But the wider thing he was saying is this is not God in the shack. This is God revealing himself through someone. And it can be a black woman, an Asian woman, a Jewish man.
Paul saw God in this black woman.
First person that demonstrated the love of God to he and Kim in the midst of his failure was this woman. His kids know it. When they read the book, they're picturing a person they know who came to their home.
Yeah.
See, it's not, well, God's a black woman. No, he's not. But a black woman has as much of an opportunity for God to be revealed in her
Absolutely.
As a white man, as a Hispanic male, as an Asian woman. And Paul's cross-cultural reality is we want every culture to understand God reveals himself through all of us as we learn to live love and learn to live inside that relationship.
And we are Christ bearers.
Yes.
For heaven's sake.
And so we thought that was worth a little controversy. The suggestion was by many of the publishing houses, you got to change that because Zondervan had just did a gender-neutral Bible, and that freaked out everybody because you can't have a gender-neutral Bible because we, but people, that's funny.
It's not if you're Zondervan, I'll guarantee.
No, not anymore. But do we really think in 2 Corinthians 5 when Paul writes, God's no longer counting men's sins against them? Do we really believe that just for men? And for you women, well, he's still counting. Sorry. No, of course not. And so our culture uses language a bit differently, but trying to get there in our culture, the paternalistic mindset that a man can reveal God better in the world than a woman can is a mistake, and part of the book's meant to undermine that.
It's very good.
The analogies in the Old Testament. People get really frustrated that you used a metaphor for God like that. Well, Jesus said he was like a mother hen gathering the chicks to herself. Was Jesus saying he was a chicken? Of course not. It's just a metaphor, and some people don't know how to grab a metaphor because they're so busy defending a doctrine, and it's unfortunate.
Thanks for asking the question, though, because the whole room just breathed this collective sigh of relief. Oh, somebody asked. Thanks.